The Nun was directed by Corin Hardy, who directed The Hollow, and that was his only other film credit besides a bunch of shorts. Taissa Farmiga, younger sister of Vera Farmiga from American Horror Story Seasons 1 and 3, Murder House and Coven respectively, plays Sister Irene, a nun who has not taken her full vows yet, so she's halfway to nonsense. Damian Bercher, who is in the short-lived TV series The Bridge and various other movies, plays Father Burke, a priest with a troubled past. Not that kind of troubled past. We are not talking about those kind of priests here. That's in real life. Jonas Bulquet, who plays Frenchie, and you find out later his name is Maurice. And by the way, spoilers from here on out, just going to say spoilers, because this does tie into the first Conjuring. It ties into the first Conjuring pretty damn well, much like Annabelle Creation. And Bonnie Aarons reprises her role as the nun from The Conjuring 2, Electric Boogaloo. And so, okay, I'm going to say right off the bat, is this as great, or is this as good as Annabelle Creation, how worthy of a prequel that was? No. Is it better than Annabelle? Yes. I do not quite get why people were making comparisons between Annabelle and this. I think The Nun was far better, had a far better atmosphere, far better mood, better performances. There were people doing a bunch of stupid shit, don't get me wrong, and I'm going to be really, really quick about the plot here, because there isn't a ton of plot. I will give credit to James Wan for crafting a good story, and certainly the cinematography, the shots are actually really well done. Now, I mean, obviously, as a sophomore director, you're going to have some quibbles, or you're going to get some quibbles from the audience more often than not. The jump scares were a big part of it. I did not really care for the jump scares. I thought the musical cues and the, the sound drops and, oh, you're just waiting for it and boom, there's a jump scare and oh, boom, there's a jump scare. I do want to say, however, as far as the music, you have the nun, the demon Valak, the defiler, the deceiver, taking the form of the nun. That actually, the music, like almost Gregorian chant like stuff, that was really, really good shit. That was haunting. That was good stuff. It was almost though like, Valak had his own soundtrack, like the greatest hits of Valak or whatever. Like order now and get 4 bonus tracks off of iTunes. That was some pretty good stuff. There were some really, really gorgeous cinematography, some really, really great shots of the countryside. The remote abbey that this film mainly takes place in. So let's just recount the plot. This takes place in 1952. You see an older nun and a younger nun going down the catacombs of the remote abbey, which, of course, anytime you go into the catacombs of any old building, and it's supposed to be a holy building, clearly nothing evil is going to happen. Oh, wait, yeah, there's a demon that's taking the form of a fucking nun. And so you can't tell who's who, even though this nun has glowing eyes and everything, glowing eyes. And, well, not like, that was actually more like Pan's Labyrinth. The creature with the eyes and the hands, that was good shit. But yeah, this old nun has this key, and this young nun is with her, and we must pray, we must drive out the evil and everything. We have this key, and then the old nun gets sucked in his room, almost quarantine style. And the old nun says just before she gets sucked in, you know what you must do. Don't let it take you. And then this young nun ends up hanging herself. Sometime later, Jonas, who plays Frenchie, during a delivery that he makes from the village, finds, and not the movie The Village, finds this young nun's body, takes her down, and you later find out puts her in the freezer area that they have for the deliveries to keep the food cold. Word reaches the Vatican. The Vatican employs Father Burke, who has his own troubled past, as you later find out is an exorcism that went wrong with a young boy. No, not that kind of thing. It actually was a legit exorcism where, yeah, it ends up haunting him and stuff like that. And you also find out that he was in the war and he dealt with this kind of stuff. And despite the fact that he was somebody that had seen war and had, been through a whole lot and seen exorcisms, he gets freaked. He gets freaked out, but also tricked by a lot of really stupid shit. That was another thing. This was a very, very checklist horror movie in the sense, anytime, hey, maybe I shouldn't go out on my own. Oh, I'm going to go out on my own. What could possibly go wrong? And he's either beat up quickly, or he's usually outsmarted by this demon. Now, granted, demons are supposed to be smart, but still. Sister Irene, Taissa Farmiga's character, is also asked to accompany Father Burke to this remote abbey. She hasn't finished her vows, so She's, so she's like, well, I'm not, I haven't finished my vows yet. I don't know why I was asked, but okay, I've never been to that part of the air or that part of the world, but they're asked for whatever reason. After some introductions and everything, Frenchie agrees to take them to this remote abbey, which is such a nice place that there's a graveyard in front of it and a creek, and the horse won't go anywhere near the place, so they have to walk after that, and that's great because you shouldn't listen to the damn animal and not go near the place, but whatever, it is what it is. They get into this remote abbey. They find the steps that are still, have some sticky blood and everything. Even though you would think that stuff would have been washed away, maybe it's an unholy place that used to be holy. Maybe we shouldn't be here. And then he points out that they left the body in the delivery room. They go there. Oh wait, Father, I should probably tell you she's sitting up. I had her laying down. Not a necro thing. No, he had left the body laying down. So, geez, you're thinking, okay, so dead bodies are moving. Okay, we probably shouldn't be here. Nope, let's be here. Later it's revealed, Father Burke reveals his backstory with the exorcism, as I mentioned. Sister Irene reveals that she has a whole bunch of visions. She got visions when she was a very young girl, and they led her to the church and this kind of stuff, and that she, that's why she's wanted to become a nun. She feels her a message from God. And that, maybe that her dad thought she was mad, which is understandable given if you're getting weird visions of shit. But from there, this is the one thing where it's like, it just right there, this should tick the boxes of like, maybe we shouldn't be here. So all these nuns are supposed to be dead. They're in this one room with these like 4 sarcophaguses, like these 4 coffins, basically, actually. It was almost like you have expected Nosferatu and various other, Frankenstein and the Wolfman and the Mummy to pop out at these things. I don't know why the Wolfman would have popped out of one of them. But anyway, it's like this is just creepy crypt area where you're just like, why is this here? This is supposed to be a holy place. Anyway, they're talking to this one woman that you can't see her face. She sounds like an old nun. Obviously, it's Volek, because he's the deceiver, the defiler. Of course he is. From there, it's a series of Volek just tricking everybody. Frenchie decides to leave and pick him up in a few days. They say, go ahead, we'll be fine. We'll be fine in this remote area that we've never been in with a clearly demonic presence and no other life. Clearly it's fine. This one lady that we can't see her face, we trust her implicitly. Frenchie, after they had buried the body of that one nun, instead of going right back to his wagon, sees the nun. Sees the young nun that they buried. And instead of being smart and thinking, I think this is an unholy place. I don't think it's safe. Maybe I should go back to my wagon. No, I'm going to chase after him. Chases after her, gets spooked and everything, and ends up leaving. Ends up grabbing a cross in a pretty funny moment from one of the graves and carry with him, the holy thing and whatever. And just a lot of the rest of the shit is just so goofy. At one point, Father Burke is going out looking for, after telling his backstory and, them actually each telling their backstory, he ends up chasing after somebody that has taken the form of this young boy that the one that he lost in the exorcism. And then he ends up somehow Father Burke ends up buried in this one grave, despite the fact that it wasn't an open grave before. It was an open grave, and then suddenly the dirt was covering it. And they referenced this whole thing before, but there's these bells that are hooked up in these coffins to where if you're accidentally buried alive, you can ring the bell and somebody will come get you. What the hell? Oh, we made a mistake. We buried somebody alive. There's nobody around for goddamn miles unless the nuns were actually there. Who the hell's going to unbury you? I mean, seriously, what kind of system was that? I guess maybe it was back in the 1700s. Maybe there were more people just wandering the woods with shovels or pickaxes going to uncover graves. But anyway, her Sister Irene's visions end up leading her to uncover Father Burke. That's another example of like him being covered, or him being, just like easily misled and everything, and easily fooled. And from there, they discover that the name of this demon, Valak, um, is trying to, get a human host and trying to take over and stuff like that. And they get this, if it gets this human host, it can walk out and everything and be just fine, even though the demon seems to be controlling the remote abbey just fine. And even with that portal to hell that's open, because for it is always a portal of hell that's open. From there, you have the typical tropes of like things that go bum in the night, of a lot of jump scares, which I again didn't really care for. I did like the music for Valak, but Sister Irene and Father Burke end up getting separated during another night. Well, Irene finds a whole bunch of nuns, finds a whole bunch of nuns who are alive. Seemingly, it's actually her visions. It turns out that these nuns, these ghosts of these nuns, are trying to warn her, hey, by the way, there's a demon that wants to come and fucking kill you, or wants to take you over and do all that. Father Burke finds a whole bunch of books from that shallow grave he was buried in, and finds out the name of the demon Valak, and a whole bunch of stuff on how to stop it. There's another backstory, a lot of backstories in this, of some knights and this one priest with the blood of Christ and what looks like this clear Fabergé egg and a little cross vial, for it is always a cross vial. And it has the blood of Christ in it. That's how they sealed the portal to hell and everything that was opened. That's how they got Valak in there. But then the bombings during the war unearthed the portal and cracked it, and now Valak is pretending to, pretending to be others just so it can get to a human host and again leave. From there, you got your basic stuff and everything. Characters almost die, then they don't die, then they get misled. Father Burke again getting misled easily. For being somebody that's so experienced and world traveled, he gets fooled a lot in this movie. But I guess that's the idea behind the character. Anyway, as we get closer to the end, it is decided Sister Irene wants to take her vows. After this whole thing of seeing these ghosts, these nuns destroyed, and seeing as she decides that the only way for her to combat this evil is to take her vows. So she takes her vows, and they find that Fabergé egg with the blood of Christ in that weird vial, and they're going to go down to these catacombs, the catacombs from the first one, go through that door where it says in Latin, God ends here. At least I think it says in Latin. And they decide to search every single room or whatever. So you got Frenchie, who's there with a torch and a shotgun. Sister Irene with the blood, and the little Fabergé egg vial, thing, like a Christmas ornament. She's like a Catholic Christmas tree. And Father Burke, who's got his lantern or whatever. It's like Amnesia: The Dark Descent if the characters were, predominantly stupid. You're expecting all these rooms and everything. Of course, they all end up getting separated. Hey, Scoob, you go that way and we'll get eaten. That's essentially what it was. Well, at the end of the movie, or near the end of the movie, Frenchie finds Sister Irene. She is possessed. He ends up taking some of the blood from that Fabergé egg that he got off of her, and that gets Valak out of there enough. He, however, ends up getting attacked and seemingly killed. Or does he? We'll find out. Then, of course, using deceiving images and all that, Valak's trying to get Sister Irene, almost drowns her, and seemingly drowns her, and then grabs the egg and is or grabs that vial and is so happy or whatever, but then sees that it's all busted. Well, then Sister Irene, channeling the Great Muda and the Great Kabuki, despite the fact that those characters didn't exist yet, and that was wrestling that was featured in Japan, spits it, missed this blood of Christ, and that knocks Valak down back into the portal of hell, and suddenly the Abbey is just fine. Or is it? What happened to Frenchie? And later find out his name is Maurice. Well, he had a backwards cross there and everything. So, okay. He's clearly been infected. He's clearly, demonic. And then you see this whole thing. It's you go to the beginning of the first Conjuring, not this part with Annabelle, but the part where Ed and Lorraine Warren are showing that video of that guy that was clearly possessed. that Lorraine, ended up staring eye to eye with and freaking out. So, okay, how does that factor? The guy's name is Maurice, didn't have more than a third grade education, name was Frenchie, nickname was Frenchie. Once he was possessed, spoke some of the best Latin Ed Warren had ever heard. And that's how it ties in. Which was kind of cool because then it ties into the whole thing where it's like in The Conjuring 2, Vera Farmiga's character says in the first, and back when during that exorcism, I had a vision of your death and I had another vision of your death. So everything's tying together nicely. It's almost tying together nicely, kind of like American Horror Story. I will, however, say that my big problems with The Nun, and yes, I did spoil pretty much everything, but again, I said spoilers, so just letting you know. But anyway, yeah, the jump scares I didn't really care for. There's loud music and that kind of stuff, but the Gregorian chants and that kind of stuff was really, really good for when Valak made his entrance, or its entrance. The performances were fine, none of them were bad. My issue was the jump scares and that kind of stuff. So I will say B. I'll say B. It's almost on par with Annabelle Creation because both movies have their issues. This is not nearly as good as The Conjuring or The Conjuring 2, which were like A and A+. But I didn't think The Nun was that bad. It was leagues better than Annabelle. At least that's my personal opinion. Now, yes, there were quibbles and everything with the characters and that kind of stuff. But I want to know what you guys think. I want to know if you guys saw The Nun, what you guys thought of it. And how do you guys think it compares to the other Conjuring prequels? Do you think it compares to the first Conjuring or Conjuring 2? Let me know. Like, share, subscribe. Also, it's been real awesome with John Riplin, and I will see you soon.